Hey Justin, time for another episode of Baking. So, we're doing baking powder history today. How do you think about that?
Pretty good.
Yeah, they're kind of one of my favorite things. So here we go. We're going to get started. We're adding, that's 1 cup of butter, and I already have another cup of butter in there because the recipe calls for half a cup of butter for one recipe.
Right.
But I was making 4. So, and I'm measuring out the flour there. We already had some butter in the bowl. So, and basically the ratio for biscuits is for every cup of flour you have, you use 2 eggs, you use half a cup of butter, you use 2 teaspoons of baking powder, you use a teaspoon of sugar, you use a teaspoon of salt. So I think what we're going to do now, we're going to measure out our baking powder.
Right.
So this is a bit of a different way to measure out baking powder. Because this is my grandma's recipe and my mom's recipe, my grandma never had like actual measuring spoons because they were pretty poor, lived on the farm. And so she just used a teaspoon. So I just learned this from my mom. For this recipe, we don't actually use measured teaspoons. We just kind of take a scoop with just a cereal spoon. Same with salt. It's a pinch of salt. And I'm going to start, I believe, the sugar here as soon as Justin's done the baking powder. And so that looks really good. Okay, so I got a joke for you, Justin.
What?
How do you get the attention of a country girl?
I don't know.
A tractor. Okay, that was terrible, but I got that from my mom this morning. So here we are. I think we're done with our dry ingredients, and we're going to start breaking our eggs into that bowl there. Funny story, one of our eggs actually rolled right off the counter. It got cut off in editing, but it rolled right off the counter, just smack onto the floor. So our handy dandy little helper Jaelyn came in and helped us by cleaning up the egg while we were still filming.
Yeah.
So that was very nice of her. And what's happening now? Oh, here we are. So we have added our flour and our baking powder, sugar, and salt into our butter, and we're cutting it with a pastry mouth messed up there. Pastry blender.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get it mixed up into small pea size or even smaller bits. And Justin's still cracking them eggs. And I'm going to pass this over to Justin to do a little bit here. And should work good. Actually, I know it worked good because they were very tasty. Did you like the biscuits?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were pretty good, weren't they?
They're good, especially with butter.
Oh, yeah. You know, you can add cheese into them, too. Grated cheese, and you can have cheese biscuits. And they bake up, and they're so good. But I didn't want to do that. Too much work. So here we are. We're just continuing with the cutting. We'll be almost ready right here. I'm getting out some pans for our biscuits. So we ended up splitting our biscuits into 3 parts. You're going to see 2 parts. The third part is on that pan on the stove. I got some stew cooking in there. And what did we make with that?
The
Irish stew.
Yeah.
Irish stew. So it's my version of Irish stew, or I should say my mom's version of Irish stew, because we never ate lamb. I've only eaten lamb like 1 time, and it was very good. It's just we live in Alberta, so it's kind of like beef country. A little bit harder to get a hold of lamb than it is beef here. So I've always made it with beef, and I always put like potatoes, carrots, peas, celery into it, turnips if I have them. So, so what we're going to do now is we're going to add our eggs, and we're going to add some milk. Again, because I just kind of gave you a rough measurement on the board there for the recipe, because this recipe is never really measured.
Right.
It's just when it looks right. So there goes the eggs, and we're going to add in our milk. And it's about 1 cup, maybe 2 cups for the entire recipe.
Okay.
And we always kind of stir folding as we go, trying to get the eggs mixed up. You don't want a big streak of orangey yellow through your biscuit because it doesn't look very appetizing. And so with biscuits, very much like muffins, you don't want to overmix. You want your batter to be lumpy, and all you're trying to do is to get your dry ingredients wet. That's all you have to do. And I don't mean water park slide wet. I mean just get caught in the rain and you have to run 10 steps inside wet. You just... Okay. You don't want it too wet because then it'll be super sticky.
So it'll be like glue.
It'll be like glue. And you want it nice and lumpy. And we're going to show you a picture of that after we're done mixing this up. And again, I'm just getting our pans and everything ready. And yeah, we're almost done. I think I'm going to add a tiny bit more milk in just a few seconds here. And I'm getting things ready for cutting our biscuits and rolling our biscuits. And we did 2 methods for to make our biscuits. We did the cutting method and we did the rolling method. Which method did you prefer, Justin?
Cutting method.
Cutting method? You like that instead of the drop?
Yeah.
So we've just added a little bit more milk and we're giving a good stir. And we're going to clear some space here. We want to get moving on getting these biscuits in the oven though, because it is baking powder. Baking powder action pretty much starts as soon as you get it wet. And the longer you leave it without cooking it, the more flat it's going to be. Now this is what the dough should look. It's all lumpy and bumpy, and we've just stirred in all the dry ingredients into the wet. So the method we're going to do here is the rolling method. And I'm just going to take about half the dough that's left, because remember I took about half the dough to do our Irish stew, which that's chilling in the fridge for right now. And we're going to sprinkle a little bit more flour on top because we don't want it sticking to our rolling pin or our fingers. Mm-hmm. And Justin's going to start rolling here in a minute. So I'm just telling him we want it about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch thick. They will rise, and he gave it a little bit too hard of a push because our dough was really soft. So I'm just folding it over just to kind of get it back to an even thickness. Justin's going to give her again. He's going to roll that out, and he does a good job. Just light pressure with this dough. There are tough doughs that like pasta and stuff like that where you have to give it a little bit more oomph. But with this one, it's a nice soft, flaky pastry kind of thing. So you don't want to be too rigorous in your rolling. Okay, so just making sure that it's all even. Okay, now we're going to cut them. And I think I cut them all. Pretty sure I did. So I just used a coffee cup because I think that that's almost the perfect size. If you have an instrument to cut them, I do have donut makers. I have a lot of donut cutters, but they're kind of in the back in a box up on the top shelf. And so it's so much easier for me to just grab a coffee cup. And so, yeah, we're going to cut out this batch.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Justin, I have another joke for you.
What?
Flour, sugar, salt, and water and yeast grew up together in jail. Guess you could say that they were bred in captivity. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're supposed to laugh. Come on. This is audio, not TV. Nobody can see you smile. Well, actually, I guess it is TV since we're on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So, yep, we're just finishing up our biscuits, the first one. So here I am going to smash that together, and you don't want to do too much. You just want it until it's just sticking together, because yeah, the warmer your hands, the biscuits they're not as fluffy. If you melt all that butter and everything in there, it just gets melty and it doesn't bake as well. So I think we're going to get 2 out of this part. And yeah, there's 1. There's 2. And then I'm just going to make up a last one. And then that's it. So it looks like a lot of places are going to start reopening soon. I know that I could use a haircut. How about you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm so tired of this long, shaggy mop. It's time to get it cut off. And time to get my hair colored again. Yes, I color my hair. I wasn't born with pink hair naturally. Right?
Right.
So, Yeah, you know, I never used to even like pink. But for some odd reason, the older I get, the more I like pink. So that's all of our rolled biscuits. So we're going to pop those in the oven. And they take anywhere from about 25 to 35 minutes at 350 degrees. So I'm just setting my timer. I think I set it for 20. Did I set it for 25? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
25 minutes I set it for. And we're going to check them at 25 minutes. So this is our second method, and this is just dropping. You can do this with some cookie doughs, and we're just going to take a big lump of dough, and we're just going to kind of form it into a ball between our two spoons, and we're going to drop it on our tray. One thing to note, you don't have to grease or oil your tray with biscuits because they just come off super easy. So you don't have to do that step, so you're not adding any more oil to your diet. So we're going to do some drop stuff there. And again, I'm using my baking stones because I love my baking stones. They make excellent things to bake on, because whatever it looks like on top is exactly what it looks like on the bottom. You'd never get scorched bottoms unless you scorch the top. So how hard was that to do that drop thing, Justin?
It was fairly easy.
Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. So I was trying to tell him to kind of like flip the dough back and forth between the spoons to make it nice and fluffy and high. So this is just the different method. So we're just going to move it over and make some room. You have to try and make your biscuits about the same size too, because otherwise one's going to cook much faster and it's going to be tough. Or you could end up with a raw one. So we don't want to do that. Keep them as close as possible to the same size. And let me see what else is going on here. So what am I doing? I don't even remember what I'm doing here, Justin. What am I doing? Oh, I'm just tidying up.
Yeah.
So here I am just tidying up, trying to get everything done. And yeah, we're almost done that. So my Irish stew is still cooking there on the stove. We're here. We've done some tidying up. We're going to throw in the last batch. It was about a 10-minute difference between the first batch going in and the second batch going in. And we're just going to clean up. And so I just wanted to show you guys this because, just in case you don't know, whenever you're working with flour and you go to wipe your counter, the flour turns to glue and then you got a big mess on your counter. But if you just take a dry towel and you brush all that the loose flour off onto a dustpan, super easy. You don't have to sweep the floor. You don't have a sticky, gooey mess on your countertop. And then when you go to wipe, it just comes off toot sweet. Now, that's my dishwasher down there. We got some flour on the top of it. But here we are. We're just giving it a good wipe. Make sure it's nice and clean. I hate a dirty counter. And, you know, you have to keep your work surfaces clean all the time because you don't want to cross-contaminate your food. Like, you wouldn't want to have raw meat and then start rolling out biscuits.
Yeah. You get food poisoning if you do that.
Yep. So we're just waiting for the biscuits for the first batch to go. So I'm just having a cup of coffee. And, tastes good. I love my coffee. So here we go. Our first batch is ready. The ones that we rolled out. We're going to pull those out. And I think Justin's just tidying up some of the dishes there.
Yeah.
And here we go. And don't they look good? They're great color. You don't want your biscuits dark. Number one, they get hard and crunchy. They almost are like English muffins without the giant holes the way the English muffins have. And blast the heat from the oven. We're pulling out our second batch of biscuits now. The ones that we dropped onto the sheet. And they look really good, but Justin lost one in the oven. It kind of slid off the pan. And you saw that I didn't grease any of those pans. And you see how easy, like it just slid off onto the oven rack. So And they smell good. Biscuits smell good. Almost as good as bread. So we're going to do our tasting soon. Okay, so our biscuits are done. We demonstrated 3 different methods of biscuit dough. Well, sorry, we've just demonstrated 2. This is snack time. We're going to try our biscuits for snack.
Yum.
And yeah, so I'm going to take the big one because I'm the biggest.
And I'm good.
Okay, take one. Take one.
And I'm gonna take the smallest.
Are you going to take the smallest?
Yeah, because I'm the smallest
Okay.
in the family.
So let's have a bite. I like to take mine apart, but you guys can do it however you want.
I like to take
you
mine
wanna-
apart too.
If you want to eat it like a sandwich, you eat it like a sandwich.
I mean, like a sandwich.
So what do you guys think? They taste good or yucky?
Good.
Actually, it's pretty good.
They actually taste pretty good. So like they don't usually taste very good?
Well, they always do.
They taste good.
Okay.
We have these
And they're very fluffy. They're biscuits too, but they're a different way that we did them.
Ow.
So, are we all feeling good about this?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So, you guys, stay safe. Be good to each other. Don't forget to wash your hands.